All right, let's jump right into this explainer. We're looking at how the Everything-as-a-Service model, or XaaS, is completely rewiring the business landscape. If you've noticed how almost every piece of software or platform you touch today has shifted to a flexible, subscription-based model, well, you're already living right in the middle of the XaaS revolution. But today, we're not just skimming the surface. We are going to unpack the massive, unseen forces that are actually driving this whole technological shift. To really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this, get a load of this projection. By 2034, the XaaS market is expected to skyrocket to $3.68 trillion. That is a massive compound annual growth rate of over 22%. So this isn't just some fleeting tech trend, right? It's a fundamental rewiring of the global economy that's changing how businesses buy, manage, and scale their most critical operations. To make sense of an ecosystem this big, we're going to use an iceberg approach. We'll start at the visible tip of cloud services and then dive deep into the unseen regulatory and competitive currents that are pushing the entire industry forward.
So here's our agenda for today. 1. The rise of XaaS. 2. Unpacking the alphabet soup. 3. Benefits and bottlenecks. 4. Signals of change. And 5. Navigating the perfect storm.
Starting off with Section 1, the rise of XaaS. The whole premise here is trading in those clunky, expensive legacy IT setups for instant, scalable resources where you literally just pay for what you consume. Historically, companies had to make these massive, upfront capital expenditures, buying physical servers, huge software licenses, housing them in on-premise data centers. XaaS flips all of that into a simple operating expense. You tap into the cloud, pull the exact resources you need in real time, and let the provider handle the security, the updates, the whole shebang. It completely wipes out the old barriers to enterprise-level innovation.
Moving right along to Section 2, unpacking the alphabet soup.
You know the tech industry absolutely loves its acronyms, right? Well, this tech-ahead taxonomy perfectly breaks down how different layers of IT are segmented into easily consumable services. At the very foundation, you've got IaaS, or Infrastructure as a Service. This is your raw computing power, virtual servers and storage like AWS EC2. Move a layer up to PaaS, Platform as a Service, and you get development environments like Heroku, where engineers can build apps without sweating over the server backend. And right at the top is SaaS, Software as a Service, ready-to-use apps requiring zero dev work from the user. Think Salesforce or Netflix. You've also got specialized layers like DaaS for virtual desktops and DBaaS for fully managed databases. Everything is compartmentalized, scaled, and rented.
What's super fascinating here is how this model bridges the gap between those dense technical acronyms and our actual real-world experiences. Insanely complex back-end cloud infrastructure is what seamlessly powers the frictionless front-end experiences we rely on every single day. Things like contactless payments, digital workflows, mobile apps. When a user taps their phone to pay, they don't see the massive web of APIs, the microservices, or the serverless functions operating in milliseconds to process it securely. That's the magic of the connected enterprise powered by XaaS. But as amazing as it sounds, migrating to this model isn't just flipping a switch.
Which brings us to Section 3, benefits and bottlenecks.
Because, look, XaaS offers unmatched agility. It lets IT teams focus on strategic innovation instead of routine maintenance. But businesses still have to navigate some very real threats. On the benefit side, you get instantly scalable computing power and enterprise-grade cybersecurity that most smaller companies could never afford to build from scratch. But on the flip side, the bottlenecks are stark. You run the risk of shared resource performance lags. If the internet stutters, your business basically stops. And if a provider changes their roadmap or gets acquired, you are looking at massive operational complexity. You're outsourcing your IT, which means you are also outsourcing a degree of your control.
To actually manage those bottlenecks, these 7 essential steps are a practical roadmap to implement XaaS seamlessly. You can't just blindly buy a bunch of subscriptions and hope for the best. You have to start by assessing your business goals and developing a strict integration plan so your legacy systems don't clash with the new cloud services. Step 5 is absolutely crucial. Optimize costs. XaaS is famously easy to buy, which means companies constantly fall victim to cloud sprawl and those sneaky hidden data transfer charges. Finally, you've got to train your team to actually use the tech and continuously monitor the environment for security.
All right, let's dive below the surface. Section 4, signals of change. We are now looking at the massive, unseen forces identified in a recent KPMG report, the currents, actively reshaping how XaaS providers operate behind the scenes. And this specific data point? It is a total wake-up call. Despite providing multi-billion-dollar cutting-edge tech, 56% of providers admit their customer experience is just average at best. That highlights a massive gap between what a product can do and actual customer satisfaction. Providers are waking up to the fact that just having good software isn't enough anymore. They have to use real-time telemetry, measuring exactly how users interact with the platform step by step, to actively improve the customer's journey.
And it's not just about software functionality anymore, either. According to the data, 49% of CEOs are now pushing hard for stringent environmental, social, and governance, or ESG practices. Why? Because modern customers want to buy from providers who actually share their values. This is fundamentally shifting the industry. Cloud providers are moving to green, carbon-neutral data centers. They're forming recycling partnerships. Some are literally developing AI bots specifically designed to check in on remote employees and monitor mental health. Sustainability and social governance are now a core part of the XaaS package.
On top of that, providers are scrambling to adapt to rapidly changing market dynamics. Take CRM software, that's now used by like 87% of businesses. To survive in saturated markets like that, providers are shifting tactics. We're seeing the rise of micro XaaS, meaning they sell small, specialized API tools instead of those massive, bloated software suites. There's also intense industry specialization happening, building highly regulated cloud environments exclusively for healthcare or defense. And maybe most fascinatingly, we're seeing co-opetition. Direct competitors are literally partnering up to create open data ecosystems to share risk and drive interoperability.
Finally, we hit the deepest part of the iceberg in Section 5, navigating the perfect storm.
This is the global regulatory minefield. Providers are being forced to navigate an absolute labyrinth of international rules. You've got strict data localization laws, like GDPR in Europe, CCPA in California, and China's cybersecurity law that completely prevent cross-border data transfers and dictate where physical servers have to live. Then you have aggressive new digital services taxes aimed straight at tech giants, like France's 3% tax. Add in intense antitrust scrutiny to prevent tech monopolies from freely merging, and you have a regulatory storm that providers have to navigate every single day.
So how in the world do you manage a product that is sold globally but regulated locally? Well, providers are actually building legal compliance directly into their software architecture. It's this concept called compliance as a code. They are automating adherence to things like HIPAA or payment card security standards by design. The software is written so that it literally restricts or enables certain features automatically based on the geolocation of the user, ensuring no laws are accidentally broken.
Furthermore, as we democratize these platforms and start injecting AI into the physical world, the stakes go way, way up. Think about integrating edge AI and industrial IoT into a manufacturing floor. Providers now have to run rigorous consequence scanning. Take the new EU AI Act, for instance. It requires companies to actively mitigate algorithmic bias and design high-risk AI with human oversight. They absolutely have to ensure that these autonomous self-healing systems don't produce unintended harmful outcomes in the real world.
So it all boils down to this. As everything becomes a service, who is really in control? If we're shifting toward a world where we simply rent our entire digital, operational, and physical infrastructure from a handful of global cloud providers, we really have to step back and ask ourselves who truly owns the future. Are we unlocking limitless innovation, or are we just handing over the keys to our businesses? It is a massive shift with incredible possibilities, but equally incredible responsibilities. Keep an eye on how these platforms evolve, how they handle your data, and how they weather this regulatory storm. It's without a doubt going to define the next decade of business.